Hey, everybody. Welcome to week 136. Now, what's going on here? I think we got,
Ooh,
Jack. All right. So Jack, say something so that they can see the the graphic. Oh, you're muted.
I'm muted, of course. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, this is going to be fun today because every time I look at Adam on the screen, I'm seeing my family behind him. He's in my office. This is fun. So welcome. Oh, I better hit the chat here because if Papa Joe is on, he's going to bust my chops because I need to get everybody so that they can chat with us. Okay, chat has been enabled. Man, we're just not on it today. So again, welcome to week 136. We are going to talk again about finishing strong. We had such good interaction last week. So Jack, you missed it. But since Jack's back, if somebody really kind of tops the chart, you might be able to get some Shoemaker Starbucks card or something. I don't know. We'll see. So you guys know the drill. Hit us in the Q&A. And it's kind of free for all, whatever you guys want to talk about. We got plenty of to talk about, but we do really want to talk about finishing strong in 2022. Other stuff that we can be doing. What's on your mind? So, Adam, actually, let's throw to Jack because he has the thematic background with the logo kind of conspicuously apparent right there. Overtly, what do you call it? The overt.
Subliminally overt.
Subliminally overt. There you go.
Yeah.
So why don't you hit us up and then we'll pass it to to Adam, because I think Adam, I know he can't help himself. He's going to have to talk about some of the election stuff. So go ahead.
Yeah, and so I'm resisting talking about the election stuff so that way Adam can have the full floor of doing so. I'm not really into politics. I mean, I follow my heart, so but my heart goes in a certain direction mostly, and I'm not going to reveal that. But I don't. Well, I'm just going to leave it at that. So
Wise man.
Yeah. And there are actually some people in my firm. What's interesting, I think I may have mentioned this before, is that I would say that in the office here in Charlotte and in Charleston, probably swing more Republican. And then up north in our Columbus and Toledo offices, it's heavily Democrat, but you have pockets of Republicans up there. And then a couple of weeks ago, I may have mentioned this as well. We have a political arm, I wouldn't call it a PAC, but we have people in Washington that is under Shoemaker Advisors, and they know everybody. I mean, they could walk into the White House or into the Capitol building whenever they want to. And but I had one guy who was Democratic slanting and one who was Republican slanting at dinner at Fahrenheit. And then so I waited a little bit, about like maybe 10 minutes max. And I'm like, okay, so I felt like I was a moderator, and I just started throwing out, the powder kegs and just waiting to see what happened. And it was very enjoyable because they were very polite to each other. I mean, obviously they work with each other and they work well with each other, but it was, some interesting. And I felt like, and I've said this before, like on the radio, switching between Fox and CNBC, they're only a few channels apart on XM, and doing that on the way home back and forth. So I was in a live conversation like that, and you wouldn't think we were talking about the same topic once they each started talking. So I was trying to get this article that I saw that was very interesting, and it was the roadmap to retention of hourly employees, strategies for retaining hourly employees. And it's a white paper, and it's, I guess, only 12 pages long, but it just goes through kind of, and my expectations were that it was going to be some profound knowledge that I could share with you, but really it's more of, okay, find the right people, make sure they're doing the right job, and pay them well, not necessarily with money, but with other remuneration benefits, and create a good environment. So basically just summed up the 12 pages of what I just saw a few moments ago.
So when you said pay them well with not necessarily money, I got paid by IOUs in one situation. And it took the CEO about 3 years to finally pay me real money for those IOUs. Is that what you're talking about, Jack?
Yeah, no, so interesting is I have a situation like that, and these are Italian owners, and they're very particular, but they also very informally. And when you start creating formal structure around them, they get a little nervous. So again, my client is owed some money for running these businesses in the U.S. And it's time to formalize the arrangement, and there's some resistance to that. And you got to wonder, though, why is there resistance? And I think it's just the culture that they're suspiciously resistant. But yeah, no IOUs. It is more like, okay, I think about as I walked into our kitchen today, there's a whole bunch of Chick-fil-A out Thursday morning. And I think I also may have mentioned this previously, that there was a civil protest when the good food or healthy food was substituted in one of the 4 weeks of the month to and it was so one of the weeks is less healthy food, but not super junk. So those kind of things is what I'm talking about. And so that's really it. I mean, I'm excited to hear about what Adam has to say about the election. So I'm gonna zip it up and let him talk. So Adam, go for it.
Do I get to go, Gary?
Yeah, you get to go, baby.
Are you going to record this thing? You know, we're going to
It's being recorded.
No, I got to tell you that the comment that I heard in watching the election results, came from, there's a guy on CNN that was Mitch McConnell's chief of staff. I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he said, in an election like this, I mean, what the American people are saying is they want people to agree between the 40-yard line. Like I'm on the 40, you're on the 40, there's middle ground there from the 40 to the 40 that we can agree on and get something done. And I thought, that's a pretty good way to put it, in terms of like what was communicated, kind of nobody gets anything overwhelmingly one way or the other. I think what that means for us as business owners is that, one, expect until things kind of get more reasonable, expect a bunch of hooly-balooly around the debt ceiling vote, probably. And Christ about, oh, we're going to default on our debt. Here we go, government. So like, just expect a lot of noise about that, And then two, I think even more importantly, and expect government, could be some government shutdowns thrown in there too. I can't think of too many of our clients that actually impacts, but just expect there could be. And I think, equally, if not more importantly, I think, we've been saying on these webinars for a while that, hey, depending on the election, that's going to give us a lot of visibility in terms of what's going to happen with tax rates. I think this pretty much seals the deal. I could end up, I will eat my shoe, Gary, mark my words that I said it on November.
It is being recorded.
Yeah, I will eat my shoe if there is a tax rate increase sometime prior to calendar year 2025 at this point. So I just, other than what was already scheduled with bonus depreciation. So I just feel like there's just no way. I mean, there's no way there's going to be a tax rate change, from here until maybe at best the middle of 2025. So I think that, from a planning strategy perspective, our strategy still holds. It's like, probably still going to be the lowest tax rate that we're going to face in our lifetimes. If you've been kicking the can for really no reason other than to kick the can down the road, maybe consider taking some income off the table, while it's at a low tax rate. Otherwise, keep on kicking the can, but make sure that you're, making good use of the money, that you're not otherwise paying to the IRS. In other words, don't just kick the can down the road in exchange for, putting cash underneath your mattress, especially in periods of rising inflation. So I just feel like I don't see anything, I don't see how anything could possibly change in the tax side of the equation now at this point, based on where things are at. So I think that's, as a business owner, that is relatively good news. As a US citizen who is wondering what his children are going to face, I mean, guess what? It probably means we're still going to have a deficit. That's not, I don't see that going away anytime soon. So we're just going to keep on piling on debt. Somebody's going to have to pay at some point here in the future. Just remind everybody on the call, I haven't had a balanced budget since Clinton. And I think the last time we had a balanced budget before that was at a Kennedy. So we're not really good at balancing our books, here in the US. So anyway, that's my prognostication, Gary. No tax rate changes. Keep going straight down the middle with what we've been doing. No having a bunch of fear sitting out there.
If there are tax rate changes, we will make sure that we do a lot of social media broadcasting about Adam eating his shoe. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think we have had some clients that have talked about, selling their company and market timing and valuation multiples kind of being at all-time highs. And those are relevant questions, but I think our advice would still hold true. It's like, if you're, if you're in your 60s, I mean, you really ought to be thinking about, okay, I need to be doing something. But if you're in your 50s and below, logically, it's always going to make more sense just to hang on to the business, continue making the income, and then sell it 5 or 6 years down the road, as you continue to grow it and increase the value, because you got 5 to 6 years worth of distributions, plus then you sell the business. And the only exception that I have to that statement is if you're walking into work and your soul is crushed every day to where, if you could, move to a foreign country and know that everybody was going to be fine and safe and then never have to deal with any of it again because you're so crushed, you just want out, but then you should sell. But that's not a money issue. That's your soul is being crushed issue. That's usually when it makes the most sense to sell. So, I mean, Gary had an example of, a client that he works with that, love him to death, got an amazing offer. Like, it's one of the better examples of business value creation in a short time frame that we've seen. And the guy really struggled with I really love what I'm doing these days, and I love my team and I love working with them, but oh my God, that's a lot of money, and he went with the money, reasonable decision, but now he's sad faced, because he didn't have a good view, like his soul wasn't crushed. He didn't have a view of what he was running to. So it's just, it's something to consider. It's a long way of saying that, could there be some market timing things that happen between now, and next year from a multiple standpoint, multiples going down? Yeah, maybe. But if you're riding out 3 to 5 years, then you're going to see another economic cycle anyway. So I'm not too concerned about it.
You bring up a really good point. One of the best pieces of advice I ever was given by a boss, she said, always make sure you're running to something instead of running from something. And what you just mentioned, Adam, is just one of those deals that I've seen, and you've seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it too, Jack, where there's a tempting offer on the table. Oh boy, this is going to be good. More money than I've ever thought of. And they pull the trigger. But if they don't have something that they're running to, and I've seen this in acquisitions, Adam, we've lived it, right? Where, owner sells, oh yeah, this is going to be fine. They're told nothing's going to change when everything does change. Frankly, I mean, I have yet to hear and see an acquisition where it wasn't, well, nothing's going to change, or it'll be really minimal. And then everything changes. And then they're shocked. But that's usually how it goes. And then they're not happy. And the money thing is fading fad. It's like, what are you going to do? So I just think it's really important. And as we're talking about winding down 2022 and moving into 2023, the thing, it's an artificial deadline, right? It's December 31 and January 1, but it's a cool milestone to go, all right, clean slate, what are we running to? So I just encourage you to do that. One thing that I'd like you to talk about too, Adam, because I heard this in some prospect calls in the last week, and it has to do with ERTC. So somebody's kind of a little late to the party. They were told by their CPA, not us, oh, you don't qualify. And then ring, 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 they are told by umpteen others, oh yeah, you actually qualified. What do we do? I said, well, that program is going to be ending at some point. It's got a short shelf life. We're not at the final wire yet, but if you're going to do something, be really conservative. Make sure that you're dealing with a reputable firm, and that you actually have a CPA firm that is agreeing and putting it to the test, because the CPA firm is typically going to be the one having to defend you for the IRS, because the pop-up shop will be gone. So anything that you want to talk about ERC, Adam or Jack?
Yeah, I'll hit it and then ask Jack to hop in on, kind of the stuff he's seen about the enforcement mechanism and the legal side of the equation in terms of like what your liability might be. But, from a CPA firm perspective, to reiterate what you just said, Gary, about, the people that are calling saying, hey, this is the credit department, you're leaving a refund on the table because you qualify for ERC. They're calling everybody with an EIN number that they got from a Dunn's list with no discretion. That's just their sales pitch. You qualify, period. You qualify, absolutely. So the problem you're going to get into, and again, with the expiration, the expiration is there's a statute of limitations, meaning, 3 years is your window to go back and get money. So eventually you'll run out of time to be able to go back and get money. 2024-ish, is when you're going to run out of time. So the problem with the people that are making the call right now, and I've talked to a couple of them, is that they got into business. They made an ass load of money. They deliver value, but they made an ass load of money. There's no viable business going forward because this is all that they do. And they're just going to retire. But the IRS has a 7-year statute of limitation on the refund. So if they go sniffing into it, the company that you hired to do the work isn't going to be around to defend it. So what we've advised our clients is that, the qualifying criteria, real straightforward, revenue, if you got that, no brainer, check, you pass test. Where you get into the gray area is the exception, which is a government ordered shutdown affected you or your supply chain. And that's the gray area everybody's hanging their hats on. What we've seen is like people trying to make a stretch on the government order. I've got a janitorial company that I just had a call with the other day. It's like, I keep on getting called. What should I do? And my answer was, look, if they want to give you a reason, like give you these, here's why we think you qualify case, I will look at it and give you my professional opinion. But, your revenue was up, check. Your business was not disrupted in the sense that you had a service line that went down. Instead, that service line, you actually sold more of it, and got to charge more because you were doing all disinfectant. So it's like, I'm having a hard time seeing how you had a service line that was disrupted in all of this due to a government ordered shutdown. I don't see a case, from what I'm looking at, but maybe there is. On the other hand, we had a law firm where revenues were flat, Jack, but, a good bit of their practice was litigation work that was before a jury trial. There were not jury trials. Thus, even though their revenue was flat, the litigation business, crash and burn, Maverick. That piece qualifies all day long. Can defend that all day long. But that's kind of the circumstance that you really need to have in place.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So starting where you ended up, that is a significant issue in law firms. We were just talking about that yesterday in a monthly corporate department meeting, lunch meeting, and we invite litigators to come in. A lot of times it's the younger ones that just so they kind of interact with the younger people in corporate so that they build the relationships for cross referrals and doing business together. And it was discussed that, yeah, it's you don't even get to the starting point because of a trial, because you can't do jury selection. You're not going to do that over video. You are certainly, if you're the defendant and we're defending the defending party, we're not going to have a jury trial over video. There's no way. That would be, I think, kind of malpractice. And so, and then you have judges who are scared to start a trial and then move forward and then have a mistrial because a juror gets sick or something like that. So you have all those issues. But yeah, I agree that going back to where we're seeing the missteps or kind of where the flashlights are being shined by government officials is looking into the basis and the substantiation documentation for what you applied for, and then looking at to see is it legit. I mean, just in its simplest form, is it legit? And were there some, if there were missteps, were they purposeful? So were they fraudulent, or were they maybe miscalculations or whatever it may be? So this is going to continue on. And that is why when we said this many times and from the very beginning, not that we had a crystal ball to predict anything at all, but basically it is that, why if you have the documentation, then it readily available and you have your calculations, it shows that there was some intentionality in what you were doing. It may have been a mistake, but at least you're showing that, okay, you went through the process and objective process. And so that's why hopefully many of you listening in, if you ever are contacted by any governmental organization, that you have all that stuff in order. I still suggest that you contact an attorney. Had a situation with a client, that very friendly commodities exchange officer contact her and just have a friendly conversation. There's no such thing as a friendly conversation. It may be a friendly conversation as far as the discussion and the tone and everything else, but I contacted one of our white collar people in another office, and they're like, they have criminal enforcement authority and weapons, so yeah, you don't want to do that. Meaning talk to them without an attorney. So there's your free legal advice for the day. Do not ever talk to a government official without an attorney if you can avoid doing so, despite the pressure that you might be under to do so. So but yeah, so there's those issues that come up. And then you have what Adam was also talking about is entities that or companies that will say that they're going to help you. And what some of them are saying is, well, we're going to take your dart and throw it at the dartboard and see what happens, without a whole lot of thought put into it. And, if we get into close to the bullseye, great. We may not hit a bullseye. We may hit nothing. but you're basically paying us to roll the dice for you. And then you'll see all kinds of disclaimers that says, we don't guarantee any results, et cetera. And then in the worst case, as Adam said, you have companies that are no longer in existence that would help you under normal circumstances, if they were legit businesses, help you through the process of the audit, essentially. So all of those things coming together. So the moral of the story is make sure your professionals and the others that are helping you through the process are legit, they know what they're doing, and that you can basically take that work product and say, here is how we came to that conclusion. And if they say, no, you're wrong, it's like, okay, then what are the consequences? Did you purposely put that information in there? Well, no, we pulled it from this source, and it basically maybe it was a transposition of numbers or whatever it may be. So
Yeah, and I think to that point, sorry, I interrupted you, Jack. That I don't, I'm not licensed to practice before a tax court. You do have to be you have to have a law license and a certain type of law license to be able to practice before tax court. But I think I said that right. Anyway, what I can tell you is like what happens when the IRS comes knocking. So IRS comes knocking and they say, hey, show me why you think you deserve this. And you show them the report that the company gave you with the calculations and the why. And then the agent says, I don't agree, I'm disallowing. So then you have the choice to either agree with that finding or not agree with that finding. Then, if you don't agree with the finding, you have the opportunity to sit before the agent's supervisor to try to convince the supervisor that the agent is wrong. And if the supervisor agrees with the agent, then you have the opportunity to agree versus disagree again. If you disagree again, then you're sent to a neutral third party within the IRS. I mean, it's like really neutral third party. I mean, it's really true. Like I've actually taken stuff to this level and won, because I thought the agent's crazy, the supervisor's crazy. I know I'm right. I'm taking it at this level. So you take it to a neutral third party and try to convince the neutral third party. If the neutral third party disagrees with you, you're going to tax court. And, my point in saying all that is, that could be pretty expensive. I mean, tax court cases, we haven't actually had any clients that have gone to tax court. I've always heard anecdotally, 30 to 50 grand, be prepared for it, could be more. So the size needs to be pretty worth it. But, you better be damn confident, because your defense before tax court or before any of those other areas cannot be, I relied on the company to do the work. That is not an acceptable defense with the IRS. That can help you get out of a penalty, but that cannot help you get out of the tax itself. Like, I don't know what the answer is. I relied on what they did. That's not an acceptable defense. You got to have like a legit case. So that's why we've been, the normally aggressive people have been kind of conservative on this one. And that's why, because if it went to tax court, I need to know I can win it. And some of the cases I've seen thrown forth by people saying people qualify, I'm like, I don't think I can win that.
Yeah, good discussion. I thought we were kind of done with ERC, but it was brought up twice in the last week in two different conversations with prospects that were wondering,
Yeah, because people are still calling, and it's not like there's a global do not call ERC list. I turned down one company, therefore I turned them all down. You're still going to get calls.
Yeah, and it's tempting when you're having 26 grand waved in front of you per employee. Oh yeah, wow,
Yeah.
More free money. Sounds great.
That's right.
Sign me up. Man, the gallery has been very quiet today. I am kind of dumbfounded because I'm looking here at, and it's a little lighter day. You know, people are probably buying milk, toilet paper, and bread because the hurricane rain is going to come later on today. So if you haven't bought your milk, toilet paper, and bread, you might want to go out and do it because the shelves are probably bare. Go into Georgia, maybe. I don't know. So-
We're all mad because we didn't win the Powerball. I mean, you got
now here's something interesting I saw. Adam, Jack, weigh in on this, but it was like $1.9 billion is what I had seen. And then I see this headline that says the biggest winner in the Powerball is the IRS because they get $1 billion of it. And I'm like, really? I mean, more than 50%? Can that even be right?
that.
No, I saw it on the internet, so it has to be true.
No,
Yeah.
they don't get more than half, but they get effectively about half of it between the IRS and the state taxing authority.
Yeah, I was gonna say, everybody gets their little cut, so it's the feds, it's the state, it's the county, it's, you know,
Oh, there you
wherever
go.
the person purchased it, so, and then I guess the store that sold it gets a little piece of it, but I mean, minor piece, but yeah, I am not very pleased with the store clerk that handed me my ticket, because I did ask him, I said, are these the winning numbers? He said, I believe so, is what he said, and I'm like, okay, I'll be back tomorrow to collect my stuff. And so yeah, very disappointed.
I was driving back from Raleigh on Tuesday and had to get some gas. And, you know, it's probably, I don't know, 4 o'clock, something like that. So it wasn't late and it wasn't after hours or whatever. And then I'm like, you know, I probably better go use bathroom. And there's this massive line and it's like a 1-stall bathroom. And I'm like, oh no. Oh, it wasn't about the bathroom. It was about the Powerball. I'm like, all right, I'm good. I'm in the fast pass lane. Oh
And,
man.
and
All
I
right.
also have a difficulty in, so if I'm in South Carolina, do I buy the ticket in South Carolina, or as a North Carolina resident, do I buy it in North Carolina? And so obviously as a resident, I feel loyal to my state, but I also know that I save pennies, but it adds up in gas because of the lower taxes when I go in a kind of a roundabout way back home from uptown. So, you know, I actually, in my mind, kind of do it 50-50. And so I'm sorry to report that I have had no success in either state. So it really doesn't matter. So my little empirical test, I cannot tell you that it's better in one state or another at this point.
Wow. So you're defying the odds of 1 in 100 billion to 1. You would get it. So we do have a question here. This is pretty funny. Without lotteries, I mean, it's a legit question. Without lotteries, do you think California would have to default on a debt by now?
Good question. I don't know. That's funny. And then they've got about a 9.5% state tax rate. It seems like they're doing fine from a revenue perspective.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, maybe the headline on the, you know, the IRS gets more in a state like California or New York. That's probably accurate. Even in Ohio, man, it was crazy up there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, I can tell you,
Um,
I can tell you that I was in San Diego last week and the Uber rates are much higher, but I was glad to be in an Uber, not renting a car, as I looked at the prices of gas in California as well. So yeah, they have us beat, and I'm happy to concede defeat on gas prices to them.
Did you see any $7 gas there?
I didn't see, well, for super, yes, but not for regular unleaded.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy. So Robert Mayetta, so good to see you. I would have been totally disappointed if you didn't weigh in. So question, looking for the Econ Guru thoughts. One of you guys find that Econ Guru hat and put it on. based on this morning's inflation number, we have turned the corner to where have we turned the corner to where the Fed will stop raising rates? Ooh, Karnak? Anybody?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of go back to Jack may have said this, and definitely heard it from other people. It's like, I don't see how raising interest rates is going to make more microchips get produced by China. So, it's not really, it doesn't really solve for supply side issues. So who freaking knows, in other words, was it the interest rate or was it just people started catching up? Who freaking knows? So that's the line I always say. I don't know. I hope not. As someone who has debt.
I mean, it is interesting, and I don't know if this is a more of a psychological observation rather than economical or economics, but so supposedly, like in the housing market, you have buyers that are not seeking such high prices because they feel like that they maybe need to subsidize a little bit the higher cost of borrowing money for their buyers, not directly, but kind of lowering the price, knowing that it's going to cost that buyer more money to purchase the house. I mean, that may be one factor in relation to, I think the housing market was going off the rails already anyway, as far as prices go. So maybe it's back to reality on some of that. But so it does become, I think, a psychological experiment as to, do interest rates really impact people's behavior significantly enough to move the needle in the economy one way or another? Meaning, if they don't raise them, or if they do raise them, what is the real economic impact? And for me, that is, are you impacting and affecting people's behavior and what they do with their money or what they borrow, and all those economic factors?
All right, so here's a little trivia question to just kind of mix it up. And then I've got some announcements for you guys to do a save the date. So we've already kind of revealed this was week 136. However, on this day is another important anniversary. And I'm not talking about a personal anniversary for any of the three of us.
Oh, good, because
Does
I want to make sure I
anybody-
didn't forget my wedding anniversary. So I'm good, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Yeah, you're off.
Okay.
You're safe. You're safe.
Good.
So this has to do, what is the significance of an anniversary today? And I'll just give you a hint: 247 years. First one that gets it right without Googling, and you have to use the honor system here. And we've got spy cams on you, so nope, it is not the Constitution. 247 years ago today. And if anybody gets that right, Starbucks card from Shoemaker.
I just cheated since I can't win the prize. So I now know the answer. Thank you, Google.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And I have a cool story, if someone gets it, or if you reveal it, of an event related to that occurred this weekend, or actually on Friday night. And now I know why, because of that.
Oh man, nobody's getting it. All right, so I'm going to put this up as this is a clue. This is a clue. There we go. You see, that's my favorite World War II vet, still alive, Mace Coleman. Saw him at Starbucks yesterday. There's a clue in that. I think Mace is 94 or 95. And I met him 7 years ago and he was still boxing at 87. All right. Well, nobody got it. 247 years ago today.
Wait, Robert got it, but it was delayed. So I don't know if that counts. And Robert, I'm not giving you any more gift cards. I give you gift cards all the time.
Oh man.
So
such
go
a
ahead.
cool
I
thing.
interrupted you. I don't know if I interrupted you as you were saying it. So please.
No, it's all right. Mace Coleman went into the Marines at age 15 in World War II. Age 15, fought in Okinawa. Man, what an amazing human being. And it was just such a gift to see him yesterday. So question did come in. Adam, you might have to do a little rewind, or Derek, if Adam says, you know what, listen to the tape, you can listen to the front end, but it says, I got here late, no problem. So disregard this if it's been addressed, but what do you think the big takeaways are from the election?
Yeah, we
Other
hit
than-
it. Yeah, well, I mean, gridlock and no tax rate changes. So
There you go.
keep going down the middle.
There you go. And all right, so I just have to say this one thing. Mike Roizen, who is one of the top people at the Cleveland Clinic, he's over all the Wellness Institute, and he has written a whole bunch of best-selling books. He also created the Owner's Manual, and a whole bunch of these books, New York Times bestsellers, as well as he did realage.com, sold it to WebMD for hundreds, over 100 million. Amazing guy, always on Oprah, far more famous than his business partner that you might recognize, Dr. Oz. Now, I've talked with Oz before, but like, I don't know him like I know Mike Roizen. All I can say is, Pennsylvania, what are you thinking? Seriously? Oh my gosh. No, heart surgeon. Nah, I mean, gosh, I'm just going to leave it at that. Anything else? So you kind of hit the highlights on the tax side, Adam. Anything else?
Not really.
All right, cool. I think you're right, man. I think, you know, aside from some crazy stuff that we've seen in this election, by and large, man, I think people are sick of being just completely polarized. You know, it's like, can we find some middle ground and get stuff stinking done? You know,
Right.
Just get stuff done and stay out of the way of business as much as possible, because the businesses are trying to keep the economic wheels on.
That's right.
So, and, you know, and that's why you guys are here. That's why I think we're so passionate. All three of us are so passionate about working with privately held businesses, because you are the economic engine of this country. It is not Facebook. Oh, by the way, there are 11,000 new candidates for IRS positions, evidently, because Meta has, you know, it's in, you know, and here's an interesting thing. I was listening to a commentary on a business news program last night about just the shedding of bodies that are happening in all the tech sector right now. Now, you know, it's like 13 to 15% of the workforce, kind of seems to be a common theme. Those guys were making big bets and hiring and spending a lot of money on hiring, bringing talent when they saw talent, you know, being tightened up. And so they just made the bet, we're going to hire like crazy. Now they're shedding like crazy. What do you guys think? I mean, do you think that's the harbinger of things to come? More, you know, is that like the first canary in the coal mine? I'd love you guys to weigh in on that.
So I think that I've thought that, well, first of all, for me, it just kind of means we're getting closer to the day that Skynet takes over the world. So, you know, there's that aspect in the background. And I assume there's some people on this call that know what that references to. But I mean, it in all seriousness, yes, in all seriousness, it is, I think that the engineering and the tech industry are what drives our economy for the most part, because we're driven by mechanisms, machines, electronics, and those kind of things. But then you need people to fix all this stuff when it doesn't work right. And so that's why I've encouraged my son who is in high school, I said, think about that aspect of when you get out of school as to what you want to do and have a successful future potentially, unless you want to be a doctor, lawyer, or anything else, other outside of engineering type stuff, but which he may. But it is that, so if you assume that statement is accurate, then as these jobs keep getting shed, what does that mean for the rest of us who are not in that? So if that's like the first dominoes to fall, is that an indication of what's going to happen in the other sectors and other industries? And I think that is probably the case, because you have the driving force that is pulling back. So it just seems natural that the ripple effect is going to impact all of us that are users of those things that those people do, as in the tech industry. So I've been thinking about that. What like I said, what is some good job security for our young people? And up until they're talking about all these layoffs, it's like, okay, that even that industry is not safe anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, my own feeling on it, I have a little bit of a different take on it, in that, I don't know, this may be completely short-sighted in saying this, but at the same time, it's like, once you invented something and people are on it, and like, how much more, like, what other features is Facebook gonna deploy? To make it like it, at what point have you, if you think about like the 80-20 rule in terms of like, I've already done the functionality. It's sort of like Excel has a bajillion features that nobody's ever heard of because people always use the same 20. I kind of feel like with the social media platform, because it seems like that's where the shedding's happening. It isn't tech, it's social media. And it's like, well, what else? What were those people going to do? Like, besides create features that me and Gary are never going to freaking use, like, are you going to watch what's like the new feature in Instagram that's, better, that's going to make me want to use it and pay more money, that isn't already there? And I don't mean that to be short-sighted. It seemed like it's, social media feels like it's hit, unless there's like a totally revolutionary change in the way that we access social media, it seems like it's now mature. So what do you need? You look more like Ford Motor Company. Why do you need all these product engineers unless you're going to do something revolutionary and completely game changing? If you're just enhancing Instagram, like, nobody wants your freaking Instagram enhancements, or yay, woo, not gonna change what I do with it, So I know that sounds kind of negative. I kind of look at it as like, what were you hiring all those people for in the first place? I mean, I get the whole meta thing with the metaverse, which seemed crazy, but anywho.
So I have an answer for that. And so it is a mixture of FOMO, fear of missing out on an opportunity. And what I mean by that is if you have a lot of people just trying out different things, then the odds of something catching and going and being revolutionary increases. And I analogize that to, I had no idea that the big banks file as many patent applications as they do for stuff. And it's technology based, and it's like every little thing. So every little feature that you see on your phone for banking and that kind of thing, the whole taking a picture of your check instead of going into the bank branch, and we see what has happened with that is, if you go into a bank branch now, I had to go in to get some foreign currency, that it is horrible because you have one person there that is dealing with everybody. And I went during a non high time, but so we represent some banks and our patent people are busy. We're hiring people just to do this stuff. But like 90%, I don't know what percent, I'm making this up, but I would say it's a pretty high, substantially high percentage of the patents that are filed, that stuff is never used or deployed into these apps, right? And so your point well taken that yes, but it is on the chance that they might miss out on an opportunity that people, more than a few people, think is really cool. And then it becomes like the standard, like maybe like Zelle or something like that. So I think that from my perspective, I think maybe that is the reason why, though.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, and one thing about it, when money's plentiful, it's easy to kind of do that. But I think what we're seeing is it needs austerity is a good thing, you know, and you can also pendulum swing that too far. You can't cut your way to greatness either. You know, what we saw, I mean, let's go back to what we saw in March and April and May of 2020. Those that were able to do and pivot and pay attention during especially when they were greatly impacted where they could, restaurants doing curbside, you know, those kind of things. You have to get scrappy, and you have to be able to grow by being scrappy. You aren't going to cut your way and like just pouring, you know, head in the ground doing the Adam, the ostrich in the sand. Thank you. So anyway, any other questions out there? Oh, by the way, quick announcement. So put on your calendar, December 14, if you are a BGW business client, we got a treat for you. 9 to 1 is a business growth workshop conducted by Jim Dunn at our place, and lunch is actually served 9 to 1. So if you just reserve that date and let me know if you are a business client and you want to participate. The final thing is, even if you're not a business client, January 11, best year ever with Jim Dunn. Man, I've got 3 of those years, and I have those sheets that I filled out dutifully in my tray over here, and that is a well worth your time. It's really good. So again, December 14, BGW Growth Workshop, and January 11, best year ever. Any parting thoughts or questions before we shut this baby down?
If anybody is not using their sweet tickets tonight for the Panthers game, as I'm watching the weather, and needs a place to park them, I'm happy to accept them, because I was planning on using tickets that are great seats, but they're in the middle of
Exposed.
weather. They are exposed, yes.
Yeah. And you can't bring umbrellas, just so you know. Can't get some trash bags. I've gone skiing with trash bags before in West Virginia, and I was like, everybody thought that other than the fact that I didn't have Carhartts on, I was like, I just fitted just great, but it was raining, 33 degrees. Oh man, we got so sick.
I bet everybody knew you were coming. I can imagine the noise that it makes as you're going down the hill, right? Yeah. Here comes
the
that
lift
guy.
guys called us the trash bag twins. And I had red bell bottoms ski pants from when I was in high school, literally. Oh my god.
Were you wearing one of your wigs? I mean, that would top it.
No. That would have not been good, because they saturate, you know, and then all of a sudden I'd have a 20-pound head. It would not be good. All right. Yeah, it was Jack looking for sweet tickets, Derek. So can you hook him up with some sweet tickets?
I have Starbucks cards.
Oh yeah, he does.
Trade ya. I don't think that's an even trade.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Derek, if you need to reach Jack, let me know and I'll connect you if you've got sweet tickets for him. So if anybody was late on this thing, oh, wow. Yeah, it might be an even trade given the abysmal record and play of the Panthers of late. Well, actually all season. So, yeah, I think I'll watch it from home and then turn it off after the first quarter.
Yeah, well, that's
All
why
right,
I actually
guys.
have tickets, is because my father is done with them for the rest of the season. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so, hey, Jack, you want this empty candy bar wrapper? It's really valuable. The candy bar was really good. All right. You guys have a great day.
Thank
I
you.
put this thing up on the BTW CPA YouTube channel later on this afternoon. See y'all. Bye-bye.